Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's your main man, Caleb Carter, and you are now back in the cut with me. And look, this is going to be a shorter episode because we got some things cooking on the technical side of this podcast. You know, I've been trying to get my equipment so I could put out the best product there for you guys. But I did want to put this out just so I could remain consistent, right? I couldn't leave you out there starving, right? And then, we just had the biggest game of the year. So we got to talk about it. The Super Bowl just wrapped up. Super Bowl 58. The Kansas City Chiefs take down the 49ers 25-22. And let me just say this. Patrick Mahomes is inevitable. I'll be honest. I think I said this on the last podcast that I didn't want the 49ers to win. But I didn't realize how much I didn't want the Chiefs to win until they won, right? Because, it just seems like we're back into the dynastic era of football where if you don't have Brady, if you don't have Peyton Manning, your team isn't going to the Super Bowl, right? So, I will say this, and I hate that I picked the 49ers because there were three scenarios where I felt that the Chiefs would win in two of them. I said that if it was a close game, then the Chiefs would win because you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes in a close game. We've seen it, right? I said if this was a shootout, Patrick Mahomes would win. Same thing goes for that. You can't bet against him. The only way that I saw the 49ers winning is if there was a blowout, right? And Kansas City Chiefs defense made sure that didn't happen. So, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs fans out there, right? Y'all are annoying, but, whatever. So, some things from the game. Patrick Mahomes, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Brock Purdy, who had a relatively decent game, 255 yards, 1 touchdown. I'll say this about the game. I thought that the 49ers defense played pretty well, right? Because we see it. It wasn't until the third quarter that the Chiefs began to mount up some type of offense. And that really was due to the muffed punt from the 49ers. Because up until that point, the Chiefs only had 3 points and then they get a short field. Patrick Mahomes goes and gets 7 on the first play of that drive, and then they're back in the game, right? So I really can't blame the 49ers defense for what happened. But that does take me to some more recent news, and that is the firing of Steve Wilks. If you're hearing this on Saturday, that means the firing of Steve Wilks was announced, I believe, on Wednesday. Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, was fired by head coach Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers. And in a press conference, Kyle Shanahan had this to say. He said, "This morning I relieved Steve Wilks of his duties." It doesn't say anything about Steve as a man or a football coach. He's exactly what we wanted as a man. He is a great football coach. But just where we're going and where we're at with our team from a scheme standpoint and things like that, looking through it all throughout the year to these last few days, I felt pretty strongly that this was a decision that was best for the organization, per Kyle Shanahan. Now, that quote really doesn't make sense to me because don't get me wrong. If you were watching the 49ers games, you did see a little bit of more bend than you may have expected from that 49ers defense. But these are some things that I do want to offer, right, in kind of defense of Steve Wilks. DeMeco Ryans, head coach of the Houston Texans. We all recognize how great of a defensive mind that he is. But Steve Wilks outperformed DeMeco Ryans in yardage per game, points per game, and in turnovers. His defense performed better than D'Amico Ryans, who we all see as a great defensive mind and is a great defensive mind. So when we look at that, how can Kyle Shanahan then go on to say throughout the year and these last few days the decision was made to get rid of Steve Wilks? Another thing is Talanoa Hufanga, the all-pro safety for the 49ers, he went down, right? So that's already one of your stars gone from the arsenal of Steve Wilks. And yet and still, he has a top 3 defense in the NFL. It really doesn't make sense, the decision to get rid of Steve Wilks. I mean, you could say it was a scapegoat move, right? Because I don't think he necessarily deserved that. But I do hope that Steve Wilks finds work somewhere. I think he will. I think he deserves to, right? I mean, it's been said that Steve Wilks didn't get a fair shake in his previous 2 jobs either, at Carolina and the Cardinals. So I do wish that Steve Wilks gets his fair shake somewhere else. But I do kind of want to circle back to Patrick Mahomes very quickly and the GOAT conversation when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, right? Because, I mean, for me, Patrick Mahomes is already top 3, if not top 2, if not number 1, let's be honest. I mean, because I'm a LeBron is the GOAT guy, right? So I don't necessarily measure ring count when it comes to proclaiming someone the GOAT, right? It takes a little bit of the eye test. I mean, if it looks like something I've never seen before, granted I didn't see Michael Jordan, but LeBron is the greatest thing I've seen on a basketball court. Patrick Mahomes, likewise, is the greatest thing I've seen on a football field, right? So, I mean, the conversation has already started for Patrick Mahomes' GOAT campaign. But I would say that, barring some injury, knock on wood, I think that Patrick Mahomes is already on his way to eclipsing Tom Brady as the GOAT. I think if Patrick Mahomes continues to put up these type of numbers, if he wins, say, maybe 2 more rings, 1 more MVP, has these great statistical years, I don't see what's stopping him from dethroning Tom Brady as the GOAT. I don't think he needs 7. I'll be honest. I don't think he needs 7 to be considered the GOAT. But I don't think he currently is the GOAT right now. I think 3 is a little bit too much less than 7. But I think if he gets to 5, maybe 1 more MVP, like I said, I think real conversations need to be had over who is the GOAT in the NFL. And I do have one more thing to say before we get out of here. Like I said, this is going to be a quick episode. Prayers up for the people of Kansas City. If you don't know what happened, the people of Kansas City, during their celebration of their Super Bowl championship win, someone walked into the crowd and began to shoot, leaving 1 person dead and 10 plus people injured. I hate that this has to happen, right? I mean, at what point do we begin to see the problem here in this country, right? I mean, I think Robert Griffin III, RG3, I think he made a great point on Twitter after the tragic shooting at Kansas City. He said that believers can't even go to church. Kids can't go to school. And now people who are supposed to be celebrating the same thing, something great within their city, none of them can feel safe without the potential of having a mass shooter on the loose. So I'll leave it at this. I mean, when do we begin to see the real problem in this country? I'll just leave it there. I don't want to get too political, but I think there is a problem, and I think we all should know what that problem is. But hey, thanks again for listening. You are once again in the cup with Caleb Carter. Like I said, hey, we're getting some things right on the technical side for you guys. So when we come back, we're coming back full force. Do you hear me? Right? We're gonna get our visual podcast going. We're gonna get the sound going. It's just gonna be a nicer setup for you guys. And in that vein, I do want you guys to. I ask that you guys bear with me. Right? It ain't gonna be as big of a pause as it was last year. Right? That's never gonna happen again. But I will say it will take maybe a week or two before we can get everything together and the way it should be. But hey, man, thank you guys for listening. Be safe. Be blessed. Have a good one.